Tonight on Q2, struggles on the slopes.
I think with the ski area, what you need to do is occupy your mountain, your terrain as much as you can.
With more and more ski areas battling to stay open, area mountains get creative to combat uncertain futures, plus glowing brightly.
And in a community like this, I think this is a killer opportunity to give folks that kind of resource and see how it goes.
One Livingston company is continuing to grow as they bring unique art to rural Montana and powering through records.
I'm proud of myself, of my accomplishments, and those are huge, but they're just goals that I want to keep chasing.
With the world watching, a West High junior is already earning gold and lots of it. Your 4:30 MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
And good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Keagan Harsha. As ski season kicks into high gear, several local mountains are embracing some big changes. At Red Lodge, longtime general manager Jeff Schmidt is retiring as that resort battles to stay competitive. And just down the road in Cody, Sleeping Giant ski area has closed its doors. Our Charlie Kleps speaks with both, getting an inside look at this ever-changing industry.
After 16 years of serving as Red Lodge Mountain's GM, Jeff Schmidt has announced he's retiring. There's been a lot of changes during his tenure, but he's managed to adapt to them all as the ski mountain business continues to change.
We take it as it comes.
That's been the mindset at Red Lodge Mountain the past 2 decades.
The mountain is still the mountain.
But the industry is ever changing.
We've changed how we access it and try to be more efficient.
That efficiency is most apparent early in the season. Red Lodge consistently is able to open Thanksgiving weekend every year because they can make their own snow.
I would say our biggest asset to us is our snowmaking system. We would not be in business if we didn't have it.
An example of the mountain's efforts at staying competitive, something that's become a challenge for some not so far away.
Last year was super frustrating for us.
Across state lines, Sleeping Giant ski area west of Cody, Wyoming has had a tumultuous past few years, thanks in large part to the weather.
Not having those cold temperatures at night is just a killer because you can't make snow because it's too warm.
It's a big reason why owner Nick Piazza has decided not to open Sleeping Giant again this winter. He's now looking for a full-time partner or someone to outright buy it.
We have other businesses and, I don't think my whole life can be Sleeping Giant.
But they did see one success, a first-time summer season for outdoor enthusiasts. Red Lodge did the same for hikers, bikers, even a new disc golf course.
It exceeded expectations greatly.
Schmidt says the mountain made 5 times what they had predicted, a helpful boost that will hopefully continue.
It's a different perspective, and it's a whole nother crowd, and hopefully they'll get the desire to come back and ride in the wintertime.
It's those crowds and that atmosphere Schmidt's come to love and what he has aimed to keep. Though ironically, at the end of this season, he will be the biggest change.
I've had a good run in the ski biz ever since I was 26.
In Red Lodge, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
As we get into the next few days, a relatively quiet weather pattern. We'd had this dividing line between the warm and the cold air, and it looks like that thing is set up housekeeping. I think it's going to get its own zip code. We'll show you where that line is setting up. We get a break from snow, but by Sunday, rain showers more likely for the lower elevations. We could see a little bit of additional snow to go along with that, and the wind will continue to blow down the east slopes of the Rockies. Not a big surprise when the temperatures are warmer than average. Forecast details are coming up.
The Biden administration is working to bring home an American citizen found in Syria. Travis Timmerman was on a spiritual journey when he disappeared into a Syrian prison 7 months ago. Ian Lee is in his home state of Missouri tonight with his story.
As the dust clears from the political upheaval in Syria, an American has made a surprise appearance.
In the middle of the night or early morning, they came with a hammer and knocked my door in. And there was 2 men with guns, and then there's another man named Ely, and they helped me get out of prison.
Identifying himself as Travis Timmerman, he said he'd spent the last 7 months in one of the country's notorious prisons.
It wasn't bad. I was never beaten. The only really bad part was that I couldn't go to the bathroom when I wanted to.
Timmerman says he was detained after entering the country illegally on a Christian pilgrimage. After rebels overthrew the Assad government, local men broke down the prison doors. CBS News' Elizabeth Palmer found Timmerman in a house outside Damascus.
When I came to Syria, I was unaware of the political situation entirely, because that's just how I am. I came here for spiritual purposes.
His family had reported him missing over the summer and called his appearance the best Christmas gift.
Did you have any idea that he was actually in Syria?
I had no idea, no. Last we heard, he was at a church in Budapest.
Traveling in the Middle East, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said he's focused on Timmerman's return.
I can't give you any details on exactly what's going to happen except to say that we're working to bring him home, to bring him out of Syria and to bring him home.
Blinken says the administration is also working hard to locate American Austin Tice. The Marine veteran was working as a freelance journalist when he was abducted in Damascus in 2012. Ian Lee, CBS News, Lebanon, Missouri.
Well, for the second time, Donald Trump has been named Person of the Year by Time magazine. The news magazine announced that choice this morning, recognizing the president-elect as the individual deemed to have the greatest influence on global affairs for, quote, for good or for ill. In its profile, Time noted that Trump is the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years. To celebrate the big honor on the magazine, Trump rung the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange this morning. He was first named Person of the Year back in 2016 after his unexpected rise to the presidency. Current FBI Director Christopher Wray announced this morning that he is preparing to step down from his role. Wray will officially resign in January, preventing what would have likely been a firing from President Trump. Trump has already named Kash Patel as Wray's successor. Patel is a past public defender and former national security aide. The United States is home to 7 million older Americans who either rarely leave their homes or have trouble doing so without help. They're called homebound Americans, and they are growing as the American population rapidly ages. Tonight, Scripps News' Dan Grossman looks at how federal funding for programs that support them is shrinking and what's being done about it.
Dan Herndon won't tell you this himself, but he's like a warm blanket on a cold winter's day.
Gonna feed a young lady named Kim Powell. Make sure she gets her lunch.
Dan is a volunteer delivery driver for a 501c3 south of Denver that helps get meals to seniors who can't get their own. And today, he's going to visit one of his favorite clients, Kim.
Well, we've gone from $100,000 a year to what now, Nancy?
$230,000.
And that's been in about 2 years' time.
The thing is, the need for services like his keeps growing as America's population ages at a rapid pace, but the federal funding doesn't.
We just have not had the kind of support or attention that's necessary to address those needs.
Josh Prodas is the chief policy officer at Meals on Wheels America, one of the groups that relies on federal funding to deliver meals to seniors. The Older Americans Act is the main piece of legislation that doles out more than $2 billion to senior needs each year. But this summer, the House cut funding to its nutrition programs by $8 million. It's put a strain on groups like Meals on Wheels that have dealt with decreasing donations, higher food prices, and now lower levels of federal funding. Prodas says it's led 45% of the group's programs to have a wait list, with the average wait time more than 4 months.
Good morning.
That's 4 months for seniors not as fortunate as Kim, who has MS and has been relying on meal deliveries from drivers like Dan for years.
You know, I can't drive. I can't. It's been difficult, but with the help of others, they're a family. Just having someone think of me, it's a blessing.
In some cases, these deliveries are the only food and social interaction many of these seniors get each day.
See, that's what we're eating today.
And with OAA's authorization set to expire at the end of the year, Prodas says it means the time to act is now.
That's a pretty desperate situation, and it shouldn't be that way.
Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Denver.
Back here closer to home, Glass Baby, an artisan glass blowing company in Livingston, is bringing unique art opportunities to rural Montana. Now, after moving to Montana just 2 years ago, that company is already hoping to expand its community footprint. MTN's Heaven Van reports in tonight's Montana Made.
Glassy Baby is a renowned artisan glass blowing company whose growing operations in Livingston, Montana is committed to nurturing Montana arts.
For me, I love the material. I have a connection. The glass is awesome. There's very few materials that behave like molten glass. When I blow glass, it's something where you have to focus and just kind of clear. It's almost like meditation. So I view that as like my therapy. And then we just throw it in.
Adam Burgess is director of productions for Glassy Baby's Livingston location. He says there's nothing like the art of glass blowing.
The glass, you can't just quit in the middle. You kind of have to follow through and finish it. And that's a challenge. Otherwise, you'd have a bunch of unfinished stuff, right? So making you follow something through.
Glassy Baby got its start in Seattle, Washington, after founder Lee Rhodes was fighting cancer and gifted a glass-blowing class to her husband.
We made this little vessel, and she dropped a tea light, and that started kind of the whole thing.
Each piece is handmade from the very first step, making no piece the same.
Our lines are perfectly imperfect. It's like you can tell that a human made it, and that's kind of the draw. It's like if they all look exactly the same, then there's no uniqueness to it.
Over 20 years later, Glassy Baby has expanded to multiple hot shops, employing over 70 glass blowers. And after bringing operations to Livingston in 2022, they hope to invest further in the community.
I'd like to have the shop more geared towards catering towards events and field trips and learning and giving the public an access to be involved with the material more directly.
In addition to bringing 20 new jobs to the local economy, Burgess hopes to use his master's in youth advocacy nonprofit leadership to create pathways for employment with local schools.
And in a community like this, I think this is a killer opportunity to give folks that kind of resource and see how it goes.
Burgess says 90% of his employees had no glassblowing experience and wants people to be paid to learn.
I like seeing people overcome these obstacles that at some point they thought they would never accomplish, and then they do. And then just seeing them succeed like that, it is rewarding for me.
In Livingston, Heaven Van, MTN News.